because, in the end, they sold you the house because they had a problem. And you solve that problem for them. And when you solve problems from people, you typically have a good relationship.
Welcome to the Get Traction podcast. If you are ready to learn exactly what it takes to become a real estate entrepreneur, this is the show for you. With your host, founder of Traction Real Estate Mentors and president of the Traction Real Estate Investors Association, Tom Zeeb.
Welcome back to the Get Traction podcast. Tom Zeeb. And I've got another very special guest today. It's Dominic Mason. Hey, Dom.
Hey, Tom.
What's going on?
Oh, not too much. Just another beautiful day here in the world of real estate.
There we go. Let's tell us a little bit about it. Dom, by way of introduction, how long have you been a real estate investor? How did you get started? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I got started in real estate investing in 2006. That was when I first got out of the military, got into the house flipping business and was doing pretty well in that until the economy crashed in the 08-09 time period. Started picking up rental properties at that time, and then really started getting back into the active real estate investing about 5 years ago, and have migrated from doing flips actually more into wholesaling at this point.
Mm-hmm. What made the change?
Really, the market changed. We were sitting here watching what was going on and seeing how the money that you could make wholesaling right now was actually a lot easier money and very quick money to make rather than trying to go through the headache and hassle of flipping a house. What's happened, now that the market is back and we're seeing houses sell really easily, and especially things that are nice and fixed up, that there are a lot more investors that have come back into the market. And so the more investors that are out there means that there's a lot of competition to get the flips. So when you're actually able to get one under contract, you can actually market it and sell it for top dollar to all these other investors out there who are willing to pay and take on a bigger risk than I'm willing to take. So I'll take my small little chunk now and be happy and move on to the next one.
Gotcha. So instead of, when you've been saying flip, you're talking a rehab flip, fix it up and resell it.
Exactly.
And you're finding that since it's a hot market and there's a lot of investors, a lot of flippers out there, rehab flippers, who they get wrapped up in the business of rehabbing and flipping, and then they don't wind up marketing and finding deals. So when you have one, you're a popular guy.
Yes, very, very much so. I've also found that my skill set is better set for doing the marketing and finding the deals and getting them under contract rather than managing the contractors and going through the day-to-day, very detailed process of getting the house fixed up and ready to go.
Let's dig into that one a little bit more. Explain that. You said your skill set is better suited to wholesaling. And so we're kind of talking personality type, understanding your strengths and weaknesses. It's a little bit self-reflective, self-aware, and a lot of people seem to miss this. They think that real estate is supposed to be a cookie cutter approach to one size fits all, and that's hardly the case, but it's a hard thing sometimes to get people to understand. So how would you explain that? I mean, why does wholesaling fit you like a glove and other things don't?
Sure. Well, I think was like most people when I got started. I mean, 2006, there was a lot of stuff going on. And for those of you who don't know, I actually took one of my first real estate investing seminars from Tom Zeeb back it was probably the winter of 2006. So like January, February. And that's part of the reason why I got started in this was thanks to Tom. But no, like I said, when I got started, I was like every investor, and you talk to the new investors, they're like, what kind of real estate investing do you want to do? And it's like, what do you have? I'll do any deal you got. You want to flip, wholesale, short sale, subject twos. We're going, anything that's out there, we will take on, out there to just do, because you're just experienced. You don't know. You just learned all these great terms. You went to these seminars. You're motivated. There's a million different ways to do real estate investing. And I spent a lot of time and effort chasing down things that just ended up fizzling out. And I really had to learn what are the areas that I enjoy doing and spending my time in, and what are the areas that I am getting the best results for spending that time. One of the things I found that I did do is when I got a rehab project underway, is that I loved getting into and actually getting hands-on with the rehabs. And I was in there swinging hammers, rolling paintbrushes, and all that kind of stuff. And by the time I get done with the rehab, I turn around and get ready to start on my next project and realize I had not marketed for a month or two, and now I have no next deal. So the idea of that when I get into a project, I can get too involved into it if I want to. So, the other aspect is that, do you just want to hire contractors and manage them? And I found out that it wasn't a skill set I was best suited for, because I would get annoyed with the contractor not showing up, and I would jump back in way too much with the projects and start doing them myself, versus pulling back and being in the more management role and focusing building a business rather than just creating jobs for myself.
Gotcha. So that's a hard thing to control for a lot of times, because it's tempting to do the work yourself, but then you realize you've got your eye is off of the marketing ball, so to speak. You're focused on the deal at the moment and getting it done, which is fair enough. You got a lot of money and risk riding on it, but you don't wind up building up anything for the future. And that's, I think, where a lot of people go wrong. So how did you, since you've struggled with that, Dom, was it purely a matter of just isolating yourself into wholesaling, or were there other tips or techniques you used?
I'd say, I went ahead and wholesaled my first deal. I had been flipping for years, and really I just got one under contract that it was a bigger project than I'd ever done before. It was going to be, $120,000 renovation of a single family house. It was a 1906 farmhouse that had not been touched really since the 1950s. So it was a complete gut job renovation from the ground up. And I had a great deal on it. And I was just looking at it, and I know what happened is I really was too big of a project that I've never done experience on. And so I investigated what would it be like if I just wholesaled this deal. And I actually got it under contract for about $115,000 and ended up finding somebody that would purchase it for, I think it was like $178,000. So that kind of made my decision for me. And that person, they went in and put over $100,000 into it. I mean, full electrical upgrade, plumbing upgrade, redid every aspect of the house, put in a driveway. I'm not sure if they had to deal with the septic issues or not, but they just really put all that money into it, and they ended up selling it for $400,000. So they made their money too. I made money. They made money. The seller was very happy because they were actually able to offload a property that they did not want to own. They had taken it on through through probate. Somebody in their family had died, so they took ownership of a property they didn't want. They just wanted it to be done with. So I did that one, and it was really easy money, like 8 hours of work to make like 50 some odd $1,000.
63. I think you said 115 to 178. Yeah, you made 63 grand with 15 minutes of work, and you
right.
Yeah, that finally convinced you.
Right. So I did that. And then I went and picked up another house under contract and decided to do that rehab. And it took so much time and it took so much money. And what I realized is I probably made profit, just maybe, a little bit more than what I could have made if I just wholesaled the deal right off. Probably made, there was a big problem with the house. There was an issue with the septic system and the whole sewage system inside of it that ended up costing me a lot of money after I had even gotten it under contract. So I made about $15,000 on that deal, and I probably could have wholesaled the thing for about 7 or 8. So while I did make double the money, it wasn't worth the 6 weeks worth of work and headaches that I put into it to make that extra $7,000 or $8,000.
That's how I always feel about it too. But it's a personality thing. If you know what you're good at and what you're not, and what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, then you can, if you're smart, focus in on what you're good at and what you actually enjoy doing.
Exactly. And I really enjoy the rehab work. I'm one of those people who loves to build things, but it's not the best use of my money and time. And I'm out for building a business that's going to, create massive income so that I can take care of my family and do other things.
Exactly. I'm assuming since you've done rehabbing on your own, you've done the rehab flips, that's probably made you a better wholesaler as well, because you're more conscious of the cost and what it takes to do a rehab. What would you say some of the good lessons you've learned from your rehabbing experience?
So some of the best lessons I learned from being a rehabber was when I was trying to buy properties from wholesalers, and just learned that wholesalers typically were overinflating comps and underestimating the expenses. So the numbers
Yep.
just didn't quite work out. It was also about the information you provide to a rehabber. As a wholesaler, I need to provide them enough information in the very first email that they can make a decision on. It should not be that there's a series of questions and back and forth with it. They get, here's a link to where the comps are so you can look at it. Here's a link to what the pictures are. And, you just upload all this to like a Google Drive or some other site that you can just share all the pictures with them and stuff like that. So it's just a link in the thing, and then you give them a basic rundown of it. Here's the property address. Here's the after repair value. Here's the estimated repairs. Here's a quick bulletized list of what we think the repairs might be for it. And then you give them a couple links to some things like that. So it's really simple and easy. You're not wasting the rehabber's time, because if you waste rehabber's time, they're going to stop talking to you.
And rightfully so. They've got, they're busy. They've got things going on. They've got rehabs going. There's issues that come up with the properties. They have to deal with contractors. And yeah, it's the more you can serve it on a silver platter and be accurate about it. That's one of my number one pet peeves is I watch people just exactly what you said. The wholesalers put deals out there that the comps are ridiculously high, much higher than they should be. And then they think it's going to cost $3 to fix the place up and make it into a palace when it's currently a dump. And you can't be there. You've got to back up what you're doing. You back it up with photos. That'll prove your repair costs. You back up your support your statement of value with comps, like properly written comps out of the MLS system. Then you're not going to have your rehabbers arguing with you. So many people want to think it's this great big argument between the wholesaler and the rehabber, but the rehabber naturally has to be cautious. They've got a lot more risk. A wholesaler, there's really nothing at risk.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you as a wholesaler, you get a property under contract, if you're not able to resell it because maybe you did do something wrong, you typically have an out in your contract that you're able to, within a week or two, get out of the contract, get your earnest money deposit back and move on to the next one. Because unfortunately, not everything works out the way you want it to. Sometimes you underestimate something the wrong way, or you overestimate the amount of interest you might have into a property. And you just got to make sure that there's, as a wholesaler, you have very low risk into it. But once you're a rehabber and you've taken ownership of it, it's a whole different ballgame. You own that baby and you got to get it onto somebody else.
Yeah. What else do you do to minimize risk, Dominic?
That's a great question. As far as the risks as a wholesaler are to make sure that you're honest with people. That's probably the number one thing. Is I'm honest with the sellers who are selling me the property. I'm honest with the rehabbers, and I'm honest with everybody. I mean, I've borrowed money from private lenders. I've borrowed money from hard lenders, and we've run into problems when you're working with real estate agents and you're selling a house to somebody as a flipper, and you got a buyer coming in, and we identify a problem through the home inspection. It's about being open and honest, not trying to hide things from people, and having good conversations is usually going to figure out a way to get a solution that works for everybody. Nobody really wants anything bad to come out of this. So everybody wants it good if you're honest with them and talk to them up front about it. Like I tell the sellers of these properties when I'm going into it, okay, I'm making you a contract offer to buy this property, and I may or may not take ownership of myself. It may be one of my partners who comes in and buys it. And, we're going to end up, what we're going to do with this is we're going to turn around and we're going to fix it up, and then we're going to resell it for more money. And what I found is the sellers usually actually end up then staying in contact with them, and they love seeing the photographs of what the house looks like after you fixed it up. I think a lot of people feel that the sellers are going to be, mad at you because you made a profit or things of this nature. But I've literally had sellers, contact me after the house went back on the market and be like, wow, the house looks beautiful. I can't believe it. I wish we had just hired you guys to come in and fix it up for us and we could have kept owning it, and things of that nature. And all good natured people, because, in the end, they sold you the house because they had a problem. And you solve that problem for them. And when you solve problems from people, you typically have a good relationship.
That is the toughest thing, it seems to me, to get people to understand, is that you're not adversarial with your seller. At the end of the day, they love what you have done for them. They love what you've done with the property. They understand that, hey, you know what? It's not just a house, it's a home. And that was a special place to them. And they know it can be a special place to the next people, the next family, the next kids hanging their stockings by the chimney with care and all. And that adds up, and that means something to them. So when they see how what a beautiful job you did with it, it does two things. One, it makes them happy, but also subtly, let's be honest, it justifies why you made a profit as well. You didn't just turn around and resell it as is, generally. You put effort and work into it and made it into something that it wasn't. And that's the value play that justifies why you got paid. And so in some ways, it puts it, for people that are worried about the seller not going to like you because you're making a profit, if anything, that puts their mind at ease because they know you made money on something that they didn't really have. They didn't have a beautiful, bright, shiny, perfect house. They had a less than perfect house.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, they have problems. You don't know what that problem is until you talk to them, but typically you're helping them solve a problem. Whether they inherited a house from, a mother or father or sister died and they don't have the money to even pay the mortgage that's on the house or the taxes at our house, or let alone borrow funds to then go and rehab it to sell it on the open market. Or, so they can't wait for a real estate agent to come in and list the property and put it up there for, 60, 90 days and a 30-day escrow period because they can't afford to pay the mortgage on the house or the back taxes that are on it. So they are thankful that you can come in and 7 to 10 days, give them close on the deal and end that problem for them.
Yeah, that's the exact niche of the market, the exact problem that we solve, and the exact reason that we have a business, and that's why it's good for everybody. So,
yeah, I mean, last one we did, it was great. The guy, he was living out of state, and he would come down to the house about once every 2 months, 3 months, and he decided 3 years ago he wanted to renovate his kitchen, so he gutted his entire kitchen. And half of the kitchen was still sitting in the living room 3 years later. And he called me up and, he said, well, I come down, every other month, every third month. And, I cut the grass, but, I'm down here without my wife. So I probably drink too much beer and end up sleeping on the couch while I'm down here instead of working on my kitchen. And why don't you come over and meet me at the house? And we met at the house and ran numbers and talked about it. And yeah, ended up, he sold it for me. And his wife was very thankful because he wasn't driving the 4 hours down to see the place. And they got, cash in their pocket that they actually used to go help their daughter buy a new house.
Oh, isn't that interesting? And these stories are everywhere because yeah, there's people with problems. They get in. A lot of people, why would anyone sell their house cheap? Because of those exact situations. People get into situations. I believe it's called life and living life. You get into situations that sometimes aren't always good. And if you can get rid of a property that isn't helping you, it's hurting you. If you can take the profits from that and finally move on and solve a lot of issues, you're happy to sell, and the property's not in top condition, so you're selling at a very reasonable price.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a licensed real estate agent as well. So, sometimes when I go and talk to these people, I'll give them options. I could buy your house right now for this amount of money, or if you wanted to hire me as a real estate agent and take on the risks of us, the uncertainty of us going on the market, I could probably get you more money, more cash. Like you could actually make more money if you went this other route versus just selling, off market to me directly. And more times than not, they agree just to sell to me off market directly.
Why do you think they choose that?
Ended a problem.
That's it. It's that simple. They just want the problem over now.
Exactly.
What's it like being an agent and an investor? Because it sounds like you're using your license to your advantage. It's, hi, I'm a licensed agent, and I could list this property for you if you don't want me to buy it immediately. So how has that worked out for you?
Oh, it's been great. Absolutely great. Because, again, it all starts back to being, honest and upfront. Everybody I've heard people talk about, oh, I can't be an agent because I'm an investor. Or I can't invest because I'm an agent because there's all these rules and regulations and ethical things. That's all true that they are out there and exist. And that's meant to protect the consumer. But as long as you're acting in an ethical manner and doing everything upfront with people, there's no problem with it. I'm out here to solve people's real estate problems. Guy calls me up and he has a house that he wants to sell here. And, I'll give a number of here's what I could buy it for you for directly. Or if we list it, it could be this number. And, talking to them, we find out that the house, they're not in dire enough situation that they want to sell it, at 70% of market value. They're willing to put it on the market and take that risk. So I can list it for them at that point and get them that money that they want and they're happy as well. So it's all depending on what the client wants. How can I best support the people who have a problem and get them the most money possible and end their problem?
Nothing wrong with that. What's
Yeah.
the burden, though? You mentioned some of the, I got to comply with the rules and regulations of being a licensed real estate agent, even though I'm an investor. And some people don't think those two can mix. So how is it that you mix it? What is it that, what's the burden and what do you need to stay compliant with?
Sure. So I operate two separate entities. One entity is as the real estate agent entity, and one entity is for investing. And so when the different businesses are doing their different types of marketing, they're complying with the rules that are associated with those specific industries. So there's a lot less rules for marketing to buy a house. And, you can do the We Buy Houses, postcards, you can, run ads on Facebook, you can do whatever you want there. When you're an actual real estate agent and you're marketing to provide real estate agent services or realtor services, you have certain disclosures that you have to meet, such as listing and it's different in each state, but listing the address of where your brokerage is, the actual name of your brokerage, and typically you have to get your broker's approval on anything you're advertising for that. And then once you start talking to an actual person, you just have to disclose that you are a licensed real estate agent and an investor.
That's it? It's that simple?
It's that simple. And then again, and there's some disclosures in the actual contract documents. So with buying a property directly, I have a disclosure in there that tells them I'm also a licensed real estate agent, but I'm not acting as such in this, and I'm not receiving a commission for my efforts in this. And the thing is once I own that, and since I own the company that it's going under contract in, I have an equitable interest in the property. And once you have an equitable interest in the property, it's basically you are the owner of the property, or you're the owner of this contract, so you can kind of do with it what you want. It's not necessarily the same thing as when you're being hired and going under contract to be a real estate agent for somebody, and then you're working directly for somebody, which is where you have a fiduciary responsibility to that client that you're working for. So probably the biggest thing is when you're going to talk to these sellers, just make sure you are honest with them about what you're telling them you're going to do. I'm either going to make you an offer to buy your house for you, or I'm going to tell you what I feel that your market value of the property is if you want to sell it.
Perfect. Now, Dominic, a lot of times I hear agents will tell me, hey, my broker's not cool with that, or my broker says it's illegal, or my broker doesn't want to deal with it. So my advice to them is always take your license and go hang it somewhere else. Hang it at a different brokerage that is investor friendly. So have you dealt with that, and what's your general advice?
It really is broker to broker specific. I would say that if you do have questions and you want to stay with the same brokerage, have a conversation with them and then talk to the state realtor legal department and find out to make sure you're compliant with in your state with what those laws are. And so, each state is a lot of difference on what they allow real estate investors to do. And we're here in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area, and each three of them have different rules and regulations for it. So we have to be compliant for investing and for being a real estate agent. I'm licensed in all three, and each one of them is different. And what I have to disclose in each one is different. And so I have made the decision to solely focus on my investing in Virginia because it's a much more investor-friendly state than some areas of DC and Virginia, even though I know that there's money to be made in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And again, talk to your broker. If they don't like what you're doing, explain it to them. If then you talk to your state legal department, which every state has, is a bunch of lawyers who are familiar with the realtor laws, and you can send usually an email out to them and get the information and have them make a judgment on what's going on and help try and educate your broker on how you're trying to work with it. But if not, like you said, there's 1,000 different brokers out there who will help you out and make sure you can do what you want to do to best support what you want and help your potential clients.
Oh, yeah. Now, Dominic, you mentioned at the beginning, I want to talk a little bit about your transition into real estate investing. You mentioned at the beginning you were in the service. Which branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Marine Corps.
Awesome. What was your role in the Marine Corps?
I was a combat engineer, which means I blew things up.
Okay, good. Now you try to not have deals blow up, even though you have experience in making things blow up.
Exactly.
Very good. Now, what was it like transitioning out of I know a lot of people do with this. Marine Corps is a highly structured environment with a very serious chain of command, and now you're completely on your own. What was that transition like?
Great question. Great question. I'd say the first thing was that it's a completely different environment. And I think a lot of military people find this when they get out is that, you don't have quite that close knit camaraderie that you do in it. So you need to find a new group and a new family. And being in the real estate world can be a very lonely job. You're working with clients, or you're working with investors, or you're working with sellers, things like that. You don't usually have a close knit group. So getting in and joining an organization and getting to know people and working with a close group of people, not necessarily in partnerships, but at least to have friends to commiserate with and things of that nature, is really a great thing to do. And that's one of the great things about being associated with a real estate investors association, is you can just get into there with friends. And I've made some friends who I've kept for, God, it's been since I started in 2006, and I still talk to these guys. And it's great because I can call them up and say, hey, I have this property, this lead over here. I'm not sure what to do with it. What do you think? And we'll share leads back and forth. Hey, I saw this thing over here and I thought it might work for you, and send it over to this guy. And we can just go back and forth, or we're just having a bad day. Call them up and talk to them about it. So that's one of the things that I had found very helpful once I got out, was to find a group of friends who were in like mindset, actually doing deals.
It helped to be around in the community amongst the same types of people with the same goals.
Exactly. Because none of them, my military friends really, we're off doing military stuff. And, some of the other people in our neighborhood, they had the 9-to-5 job type of mentality, and they didn't quite understand what we were doing, and why we were doing it, and why we made these decisions, and how sometimes, 11:30 on a Monday, I'm sitting here in a t-shirt and sweatpants having a conversation with somebody. But then again, I could be talking with a seller at 9 o'clock at night with a flashlight crawling through a crawl space. It's just a different lifestyle, and you got to get used to that different lifestyle.
It is. You have an odd schedule at times, and you have some odd things to do, like crawling through a crawl space, and that also the pay can be unsteady. So speak to that. How did you went from a very a government paycheck effectively.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing more regimented than that. Yeah, first and the 15th, no matter what, and you knew you were getting paid because Uncle Sam ain't going out of business.
Right. Yeah. And you knew what your pay raise was going to be every year. And then, it was just a very, it was a difficult transition. I don't think I thought about it enough when I first got out. And then real estate investing in the 2006, 2007 period was almost easy. You buy something, put a little bit of money into it, and almost through just the market, it would appreciate 10% without you doing anything to the house, let alone what you did to the house and bring it up. But then things got bad, and it really changed the whole market time set. And it realized that, when you go through a whole deal, and at the end of the deal, you're only making a couple $100, you start sweating and you start worrying about things. And then you got to really transition that whole mindset of it. So some of the things we've done in place is that we've made sure we've put cash savings into a position so that we can ride the ups and downs of being full-time in real estate. And so that, if we do we know there's going to be a bad month. And so when there's a bad month, we have the savings already set aside, and we can work right off of those savings. So
a little bit of, I'd call that staying power. So you have the ability to weather the storm until it gets nice and sunny again.
Oh yeah. You're going to go 1 month, or, I've had this year where, 1 month we made a third of what we need to make just to even cover operating expenses. Mm-hmm. And then the next month we made $60,000 in a month. It's the way it goes. There's nothing you can do about it in this business, because that's what it is. The only thing you can do is set yourself up that you have, 3 to 6 months of operating income out there and available, so that you're not stressed out about every deal. And, the key to know it is the solution to everything is just get another property. The next property is going to solve all your problems. So you just got to keep marketing, keep going for it, get that next property, and you'll be amazed about how much that one deal can save it. And real estate, as an agent or as investing, it's the one industry where you can go from having your worst time ever and literally sobbing on your partner's shoulders about how bad things are and questioning why you ever made this decision and cursing Tom Z forever talking to you about it. And Rich Dad Poor Dad was the worst thing I ever read in my life. And then the next 5 days, you have, you put over $100,000 in profit under contract. I mean, that happened to me in the month of March.
You went from the extreme high or the extreme low to the extreme high.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it was just the fact, we just kept plugging away. And that's my, I'd say the key that I've learned after doing this for 13 years is discipline. Discipline is the key to being successful in this. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You can't take the good days too high, the bad days too low. You got to keep doing it. So we put in place milestones for each day or checklists for each day, what we need to accomplish. So I need to do, about 2 hours, 3 hours of prospecting so I can find new deals every day, no matter what. And I need to do that whether I'm getting great responses from it or I'm getting zero responses from it. And I need to do that every day for 5 days every week so that I can hit my numbers by the end of the month. And by the end of the month, everything adds up and it usually looks out pretty good. And if not, then it's going on to the next month and that month will make up for it. So over the course of a year, you've done 2 to 3 hours every day of prospecting, you're going to be successful.
So you don't worry too much now about the downtimes because the uptimes are coming as well. And what you're looking for is how it averages out over the course of a year.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. That's one of the reasons why I want to make sure we put a sharp enough point on that point.
Yeah, and I'd say come up with a plan. What is it going to take? What is your goal? Is your goal to be a full-time real estate investor? Is it part-time real estate investor? Do you just want to wholesale? Do you want to be a landlord, flipper? And write it all out. And then, I want to do this many deals a year and then track off of that. If you want to be a full-time investor, you need to know how much it costs you every month to live and then how much it's going to cost you every month for your business. Work 2 jobs, be dual career until you can save up 3 to 4 months of that income to put into just a savings account. And then that will give you the comfort to know that, I at least have 3 months to live on and it's not going to take you 3 months to get the next deal. Because if you got to be able to put that money in the bank, you know that you can do the deals.
Gotcha. So having that cushion of money in the bank, that staying power helps guide you through and stabilize you when you need it.
Right.
What do you spend a month on marketing, Dominic?
It's going down. I'm doing less on it because I'm really been testing a lot of different things and finding out what's working and what's not working for me. And I've found that some of the things that are working best for me are when I'm being most proactive with my prospecting is where I'm actually aggressively going out and doing my driving for dollars, doing my calling for the FSBOs and the expireds, and probate phone calls and things of that nature. Because what I found is everybody's mailing nowadays. The amount of mail that people go into. Last deal we did with this probate situation, not my last deal, but probate situation, and the guy's sister died, and they received, I want to say it was like 70 pieces of mail in the first 30 days after they started their probate process. And to me, it's like, mailing it are easy. But if everybody's doing something, I want to zig when everybody else is zagging. So I'm going to go a different direction, and I'm going to try and get that person's contact information and give them a phone call and talk to them directly. And I found for me, being on the phone is the best way for me to nurture a lead and get a time to go and meet with them.
So you're able to set yourself apart by getting on the phone if everyone else is mailing. Now, I know some parts of the country, nobody's mailing. And so mailing sets you apart. And other times it's the phone call sets you apart. Or other times it's the knock on the door. You've got to tweak it for what's working, what fits your personality and what's going to fit what's going on in your market.
Right. And your time and budget. If you have a big enough budget, and you can just keep putting out enough mailings and you're going to hit, a broader space, then, you're eventually going to get the return on your investment for it. Mailings do work. It's just, you got to make sure you're doing enough of it, make it work, and be different with your mailings. Do something different with your mailings than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I usually find that if the crowd is all heading in one direction, then the real solution is literally an exact opposite 180 degrees turn from where they are. Just go the opposite direction. You almost can't, for anything in life, you almost can't go wrong to do the opposite of what the crowd wants you to do.
So with that, I'm probably spending a little bit more time with my marketing than I am with spending my money on marketing. But we're still spending, I'd say, about $2,000 a month on different marketing campaigns or different systems set up for it. The driving for dollars is still one of the best ones out there. The courthouse research, there's not enough people who are doing that.
And therefore, because it takes an ounce of effort, so anything that takes an ounce of effort is wiping out 98% of your competition right there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Amazing how that always works.
And I know it's hard to do when you're, a dual career person. You're trying to do this on the side and build that initial cash flow. So yeah, it might be that you just focus on the mailings, because you can get those out with very little effort, and you're just paying for it. But you don't need as many deals to live off of either. You're just trying to get that extra cash to build that base to go into.
Gotcha. So kind of the discipline is also combined with some patience.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing the mailings, let's say you're mailing the out-of-state owners, and you know that you're going to mail, you get all the out-of-state owners for this area, and you got a list of 1,000. You just get on a schedule where you're mailing, 330 every quarter, and so that person is receiving a mail from you every quarter, or you do 330 mailings per a month. That means every quarter everybody's getting hit at least one mailing from you, and they might call you up and be like, "Hey, I've gotten 4 postcards from you this year. What's up?"
Time to talk.
I mean, that's the kind of discipline it takes to get the leads. They got 4 postcards in a year, same postcard, same message, and that's the person they might call back versus when they get one, maybe 2 from somebody over the course of a year. Or if you want to get aggressive with it, mail them every month.
Mail them every month, sure, depending on what it is. But don't you get? Wait a second. Aren't you worried or bothered by the fact that, if they're only responding after 4 mailings, they have ignored you at the other 3, and doesn't that bother you that you're not getting a grand slam your first time up at plate?
Singles and doubles win games too, Tom. It really does. If you're going to be in this for the long haul, you got to learn to appreciate a good, a single that's just going to hop over the shortstop's head and land in there. And that's as good as you can get sometimes. And so you just got to stay on it and know that single, then you steal second, and then somebody else hits a double, and you scored a run. You manufacture it any way you can. So, even if I'm only making, I've done deals as little as $5,000. And I've done deals with 60 some odd $1,000. It's going to be everywhere. And the little ones add up as much as the big ones, because, then you can get onto social media and start advertising what you're doing. And you're going to be amazed at how many people will call you up and be like, "Hey, so my brother, sister, cousin has this house." And social media is a great place to be on as far as getting in contact with your sphere of influence and letting people know what you're doing. You'd be surprised how many people were going to call you and talk to you about something. I had a family member who called me up on that one I was telling you about, that they got 70 pieces of mail from probate, and they called me up and like, "Dom, I don't know what to do." And I just walked them through it, and I helped them get through the deal, and they actually allowed me to make a little bit off of it, which is great, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything amazing, but you got to be in the business to, this business is about people. I think the numbers are the numbers when it comes to whether a deal works or not, but this business is about people. People have problems, and you're going to help people solve problems. And the more you can do that, and the more you can let everybody know that you're a problem solver, the more people are going to call you and contact you.
What do you wish that you would have known then? Right? We all get to that point where, hey, if I knew then what I know now, what's that for you? What would you have liked to have known back then?
I think a lot of what we were just talking about the fact is that trust that the next deal is going to come. I think I got scared for a little while there, and I wasn't always able to trust that the next deal would come in because I couldn't see it down the road. after doing it now for a while, if you're disciplined and you're doing your regular marketing, the deals are going to come regularly.
Now, you mentioned being at one of my first seminars, and that was literally back in the day. It was one of my first training events. And you've come a long way since then. I'm glad I got you into it. And you also attend my current Rapid Cash Generator implementation boot camps. Now, why are you still attending my events if I got you started, 15 plus years ago?
And you always got to be learning. You're going to learn new stuff no matter where you go, whether it's just a slight negotiating technique. You go over things sometimes in your current class that you went over a decade ago and I'd forgotten about. It's like, oh yeah. Or there's things that you've said during your current things. And it's like, I think in the last 3 years, I've been to like 2 of your different training events. And I know there were things you said in the one, I was like, yep, that's a good thing. I got to write that down. I wrote it down and then I forgot about it until I went to the next event and you said it again. And like, oh yeah, I got to start doing that.
And you wrote it down again.
And then write it down again. And I started doing it and some of it, but there's always new things to be learning. I really appreciate how you put together a structure of how to run the business as a business. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It is a long, sustainable business plan that you can work through it with a structure involved into it. And that structure is what really is going to get you through the good times and the bad times, because you got to keep implementing the same repeatable processes over and over again. And if you do that, once you get that first taste of success, you got to keep implementing these same basic principles and you will get to the results that you're looking for.
So what would you say is the single best thing I've taught you?
The flinch.
The flinch. Yeah, that wasn't just you making noise. Let's make sure that doesn't get edited out.
All right, that was actually the one of the things that just pausing and waiting, learning how some of the negotiating techniques, being quiet, help me help you. And again, I'm going to need you to do better than that. Little things like that. Those are things that I really learned. And then, it's been so long. I've taken so many training seminars and I've really, kind of meshed everything together. But I know I definitely used your lead intake sheet, the caller sheet, as my base that I created everything off of as far as the script goes. Because I know one of the hardest things people do is once they get somebody to call them, what do you do now? I'm on the phone with somebody. And just having that script that you produce and that one simple worksheet, one page, you just work your way through it and ask them the questions that are on it. And then just sit and wait and listen and let people talk.
That's been a tricky thing for a lot of people is, I've given you the questions to ask and they're simple enough, ask and then listen. But the listening part is the tricky part for people. It's letting them tell you their story and they will give you the keys to how to unlock that deal for them and how to unlock the profits for you.
Definitely. Like we've been talking about the whole time. It's about problem solving. Learn what the people's problems are and then don't make assumptions about what their problems are or what they're looking for. Let them tell you what it is and then just lay it out for them and let them make a decision on it.
Dominic Mason, anything else we should add?
This is a great business to be in. It's probably one of the most popular ones out there as far as people spending a lot of money on a lot of different things to get started in the business. Some of the seminars out there that I've seen and people that are doing, they're really complex and very big. So I really would recommend anybody who's starting this business get started in wholesaling. Seminar like Tom's is a perfect place to get started with this rapid cash flow generation. In 3 days, you learn all the things that you need, you get all the forms that you need, and then you're at very low risk. With the wholesaling, you get to practice your marketing to be able to identify the people who are out there and the sellers who need your help. And then you're able to get them under contract. And then some of the most difficult things, the things that are going to take the biggest risk for you, you've offset that to another party. And you can really make a lot of money in very few hours in doing this. It's about setting a good system in place. And once you get this up and running and it's humming along, you can then take this and expand it out to however you want to expand it out. So wholesaling is where I would always recommend somebody get started in the real estate investing business, because then you can easily take this into being a landlord because you're keeping the properties that you have. You could take this into flipping because you're doing that. You could then make some money here and then get into the private lending area of it and start talking about, IRAs and private money and all that kind of stuff. It's the best place to get started.
Yeah, you've got to know the basics and you have to master the basics. And wholesaling at the end of the day, it's the basics. It's marketing, it's negotiation, it's legal contracts and control, so you get paid.
Right, 100%.
Is it seriously? Now, I mean, you said this. I know some people doubt me. Do I really teach you everything you need to know to get your wholesaling business going in 3 days? I mean, 3 days. Most people are used to spending 4 years, 6 years, 8 years at university to be able to do something professionally. Is it seriously just 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, most people spend 4 years in college to get a degree, and then they go to a job and get trained on the job.
Yeah,
There's very few degrees you go into, and you walk into a business, and you're, the all-star rock star coming out of college. I mean, they don't even do that in the NFL. But so what you're learning in those 3 days is very practical, implementable stuff. You can't. You're not paying Tom to do the business for you. You're going to have to get out and do the legwork and actually implement what he's teaching you. But if you start implementing it, I mean, what do you have? 80 some odd different marketing techniques. If you implement 5 of them and you hit those 5 hard for 6 months, you're going to start getting leads, and then you go to the next book and pick it up. And what do I do once I get leads? And now I got a contract. And what do I do once I get a contract? The difficult part is to get started and then stay started. And then just not give up on it and stay focused on it and realize that it's going to work out. If the program works, if you work the program.
Well said, Dominic.
Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, Tom, I love what you and Carolina do. It's a great organization. You guys are really one of the top-notch ones out there. But as far as real estate investing goes, it's something that has really just resonated in me. It hasn't always been the nicest business to me, but it's been a business that I love and has treated me very, very well. We've made a lot of money in the business. We're very successful. It's allowed me freedoms and opportunities to do things with my family and my kids that I would never have if I was working, a corporate job. And you say 9 to 5 job, but nobody works 9 to 5 anymore. You're working, 7 to 7, most people, and then you count in the commute and all those different things like that. I really don't think I would have, I'd be as happy as I am in my life and my family if it hadn't been for real estate investing.
So even those days where it knocked you down, or those, you referred to, it's not always pleasant, that's still worth it because it's better than the consistently not very pleasant day job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am happier overall than I've ever been. And it's because I've taken everything that I've learned and applied it into a business that I own and operate and get to make the rules for. And I'm not sitting at a desk job, dealing with the headaches of things that I don't want to deal with or they're not making me happy. It is a kind of a commission-based business. So you got to be understanding that you're going to roll with it. And some days are going to be better than others. And the risk of not getting a paycheck every month, but, the rewards can be that you could hit one home run and make $60-some thousand in an afternoon.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Oh, I'm glad it's worked out well for you, because that certainly is. I think it's a testament to people that get in there, buckle down, get focused, stay focused, and make it happen. Because it's at the end of the day, it sounds like it was all up to you to make it happen. Correct?
100%. It's about that discipline to get up and do it every day, no matter what.
Now there's that D word again, discipline. It's amazing how much it can really improve people's lives.
And it's amazing. I think the thing that, most people think that, time in the military, oh, you're very disciplined and things of that nature. And they had a very good structure. And, the structure is what kept you disciplined. Somebody
yelling at you is what kept you disciplined.
Exactly. It's somebody, right behind you there if you weren't going to do it. So now the discipline is that there's nobody who's I control it all. So it's the self-discipline that I think a lot of things you need to make sure you're focused on that. Getting up at 5:30 every morning, no matter what, even if I was out till 11 o'clock at an event or talking to a seller and things like that, still waking up. So I know that by 8 o'clock in the morning, I can be sitting at my desk doing the prospecting that needs to get done, because without the prospecting and without holding that prospecting time sacred, that nothing else is going to come from it.
So in order for you to get the total freedom that you've been able to achieve, it's a matter of making sure that you carve out the time to do this and not let everything else in life get in your way.
Exactly. Prospecting is the number one thing. Nothing should occur before prospecting, because that's what's going to drive my entire business.
Yeah, you get the marketing right, or you've got nothing. You've got a bunch of knowledge you'll never get a chance to use because you're not marketing to get deals.
Yeah, you can be the best real estate investor, best real estate agent, best anything, and nobody knows about it or nobody knows to call you. You're not going to do anything.
Dominic, on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
All right,
That's
Tom.
a fantastic conversation training for people. And thanks very much for being my guest.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Your next step is to visit gettractionpodcast.com. There you'll find all current episodes and a link to download a free copy of Tom's Deal Flow cheat sheet. Happy wholesaling!